Could you imagine having to sit in the back of a bus or in a colored waiting section? That was the sad reality of all African Americans before the Freedom Riders decided to make a change. I've done extensive research over this topic, and I've watched many documentaries, so I have a better scope of the movement as a whole. So today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who the Freedom Riders were, who founded them, what the Freedom Riders did, and the public's response. And this is important because the Freedom Riders were integral to desegregating the interstate travel and overall helping the civil rights movement as a whole. So let's start off with who the Freedom Riders were and who founded them. The Freedom Riders were a group who was founded by CORE, which is the Congress of Racial Equality, in 1961 by James Farmar. The original demographic for the rides was 13 people, which consisted of 6 white people and 7 African Americans, which is really appalling because of the moral majority standpoint at that time, where racism ran so deep through most of the country. And according to the New York Times, in an article titled "The Freedom Rides," over 436 people were a part of over 60 freedom rides during the movement as a whole. So now that you know a little bit about who the Freedom Riders were and who founded them, I'm going to tell you about what the Freedom Riders did. So the Freedom Rides were formed to challenge Morgan versus Virginia, which was a piece of legislation that was made to challenge the segregation in interstate travel, and eventually it deemed it unconstitutional, and they wanted to test to see how far they could go. So they worked to integrate through the Greyhound bus system, shown right here, and you can see it as they have like the white waiting rooms, and they wanted to get rid of all of that. They wanted to be everything completely equal for everyone. And according to Stanford University, they rode all the way from Washington, D.C. to Louisiana in their Freedom Ride, which is a part of the Deep South, which was originally called that because of how far down south it was and how deep racism ran through that part of the country. So now that you know a little bit about who the Freedom Riders were, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the success of the Freedom Rides and the public's response. So the Freedom Rides were super successful. They completely desegregated the interstate travel and made all bus terminals and all buses in general desegregated. But the public did not like this at all. And because of how deep racism ran, it caused a lot of violence throughout the South. So according to History.com, there was an angry mob of over 200 white men waiting for these buses to come through their towns. And they would surround the buses, causing the buses to miss their stops, to where they would eventually have their tires explode, and then the buses would be bombarded with fire bombs and other types of projectiles to get the Freedom Riders out of the buses, as shown in this photo right here. And they would actually throw those firebombs into the buses and wait for them to come out and then brutally beat them after they got off the buses, which shows the animosity that was surrounding this movement and how much people hated the people who were trying to fight for this desegregation. So now that I've covered all those things, I hope you guys can have a better understanding of what this movement did as a whole. Not only that it desegregated all of these things, but I hope that you guys will be able to appreciate how this movement gave us so many civil liberties, like being able to ride on the bus whenever we want, being able to sit wherever we want, and overall just being able to have basic liberties that they weren't. And that is all because of the Freedom Riders. And so, if you guys would like to learn a little bit more, I have a page of resources right here. These are all the resources I used to do my research for this speech, and they're all wonderful resources. They really helped, and they provided a lot. So, thank you.
Nice stuff, Evan.